going to learn about identification of tools. The objectives of this video are: after the session you'll be able to identify the measuring tools, use and their application. Identify the testing tools, use and their application. Let's start. Recap.
Firm joint calipers. In the case of firm joint calipers, both legs are pivoted at one end. To take the measurements of a workpiece, the caliper is opened roughly to the required size. Fine setting is done by tapping the caliper lightly on a wooden surface. Types of calipers. Outside and inside calipers are differentiated by the shape of the legs. Calipers used for outside measurements are known as outside calipers. The calipers used for internal measurements are known as inside calipers. Spring joint calipers. For this type of calipers, the legs are assembled by means of a pivot loaded with a spring. For opening and closing the caliper legs, a screw and nut are provided. Spring joint calipers have the advantage of quick setting. The setting made will not change unless the nut is turned. The size of a caliper is specified by its length, which is the distance between the pivot center and the tip of the leg. The accuracy of the measurement taken depends very much on the sense of feel or touch while measuring the job. You should get the feel when the legs are just touching the surface. Standard wire gauge. The job drawing indicate only gauge or thickness of the sheet to be used. Before starting the work, identify the correct thickness of the sheet. The thickness of the sheet is measured with the help of the standard wire gauge. These gaps or slots are of various width and correspond to certain gauge number. Gauge number is stamped on one side of each slot and on the other side. The decimal part of an inch is stamped to show the thickness of the sheet and diameter of the wire. Thickness of the sheet is checked by inserting the edge of sheet in the appropriate slot of the standard wire gauge. Wire diameter is checked by inserting the wire only in the slot and not in the circle. Higher the SWG gauge number, lesser the thickness of the sheet. Tri-square. The tri-square is a precision instrument which is used to check squareness of a surface. The accuracy of measurements by a tri-square about 0.002 mm per 100 mm length, which is accurate enough for most workshop purposes. Uses. The tri-square is used to check the flatness of the surface, to check the squareness of edge, to check the inside squareness. Mitre square. To mark 45 degrees and to test 45 degrees by mitre square is used at the end of its stock and at the cutting of the blade. It is fixed permanently by rivets. The length of its blade is 200 mm to 350 mm. There are graduations on its blade. The only difference between tri-square and mitre square is that the blade and the stock are fixed at 90 degrees in the tri-square and 45 degrees in the mitre square. Spirit level. A spirit level is used principally by the woodwork technician. It consists of a piece of wood. Common wood for spirit level is teak wood or aluminium, into which a spirit level glass is fastened horizontally and vertically. As the glass tube is not filled, a bubble always remains. When the bubble is in the center of glass, indicated by lines marked on it, the structure on which the level rests is absolutely horizontal or vertical. In some spirit level, there will be two glass tubes perpendicular to the horizontal glass tube. This will be called as plumb glass and is used to test the perpendicularity of walls and windows. Straight edge. Straight edge made of steel or wood with perfectly straight parallel edges, although sometimes has only one straight edge. Uses: for testing the straightness of surface and edges. Its length is 1500 mm to 2000 mm breadth, 50 mm to 70 mm and thickness 20 mm. T-bevel or bevel square. The T-bevel is used to test and transfer angles other than right angles. The bevel is called sliding bevel because it has an adjustable sliding blade. The blade may be locked by a wing nut or set screw. The required angle is set from a straight edge and degrees are measured against a protractor. Uses: the sliding bevel is used for laying out dovetails, side rails for chairs, chamfers, bevels, and for transferring angles from the drawing to the workpiece. The parts of the bevel square. Plumb bob. This tool consists of a solid brass or metal cylinder with a pointed end which is attached to a suspending line so that its tip is always pointing vertically down. Its upper part is small wooden block with a hole drilled in its center so that the line with the cylinder on it can be pulled up or lowered down through the hole. The diameter of the wooden block is slightly greater than the diameter of the cylinder so that the cylinder can move freely up and down without touching the workpiece. The main use of the plumb bob is a more accurate replacement for the vertical spirit level and also to transfer points down vertically in marking.
Recap. In this training session, trainees learn to identify and use measuring and testing tools. Firm joint and spring joint calipers are discussed, emphasizing their applications and proper usage. The session covers the standard wire gauge for measuring sheet thickness, the tri-square for checking squareness, the spirit level for determining horizontal and vertical alignment, the straight edge for testing straightness, the T-bevel for transferring angles, and the plumb bob for accurate vertical measurements. Each tool's purpose, usage, and key features are explained, providing comprehensive knowledge for effective tool identification and application. Hope you understood everything taught in this session. See you in another video. Thank you and goodbye. Until then.